I was stirring sugar into my coffee when I heard the ping motion detected in the study. I nearly ignored it. Probably just a squirrel near the window again. But something tugged at me, that instinct that only grows sharper with age. I tapped the screen and opened the live feed. There he was, my son. Bryce was standing in front of my locked drawer, the one that holds everything important, the one he had no business touching. I watched as he bent down, pulled something from his pocket, and worked the lock with quick, practiced movements. Not hesitation, not guilt, precision. The drawer slid open. "Olivia," he called softly. "Got it." She stepped into view, hair up in a careless bun, wearing my favorite sweater, like it was hers. "This is it," she said, flipping through the folders. "If she signs this tonight, it's ours." I didn't breathe. I didn't move. My hand hovered above the coffee, still holding the spoon. Ours. I pressed pause. Then I picked up the phone. 911, I said, voice steady. "I need to report a break-in. It's my own son and his wife. They're stealing from me." The dispatcher asked for details. I gave names, address, what they were doing, what I was seeing live on camera. "They don't know the system's been fixed," I said quietly. "They think I'm just in the kitchen." The operator said officers were en route. I thanked her, then ended the call. I sat down, still watching the screen. Bryce was holding the deed now. My husband and I bought this house 42 years ago. We'd painted it together, raised our only child in it, buried the dog out back. Every inch of it had cost us something. And here was my son, treating it like leverage, like something to be flipped, signed away, forgotten. My heart should have been breaking, but it wasn't. It was hardening. I stayed seated, phone in hand, eyes on the footage as it looped back. Bryce flipping through my records like they were his to handle. Olivia scanning the documents with surgical focus. They weren't guessing. They'd planned this. On the screen, she tapped the top sheet. This one. It looks official enough. We'll say it's a routine medical consent. She won't question it, she trusts us. I forwarded the video clip to Nadine, my attorney, with a single line. "You were right." I remembered what she told me months ago, after a casual lunch turned quiet. "Marvell," she'd said, "you're generous to a fault. But some people don't see kindness. They see opportunity." I'd laughed it off. Told her not to worry about Bryce and Olivia. Told her they weren't like that. Now I hit send. Then opened the second camera angle, the one by the hallway. Bryce walking out of the study with the folder tucked under his arm like a trophy. Olivia closing drawers behind him, neat, tidy, practiced. I watched her lips as she spoke again. "We list it by summer. Get her into assisted living by fall. She'll thank us later. Thank them." I leaned back and looked at the ceiling. I paid off this house before Bryce turned 12. Worked weekends, cut my own meals short to keep his field trips covered. Sold my wedding ring after my husband died just to fix the roof after that bad winter. And this was the reward. I opened a secure folder on my tablet and added the footage. Labeled it evidence, date, time, location. The sirens were faint now, still blocks away, but getting closer. In the camera feed, Bryce and Olivia were back in the kitchen, laughing. I didn't hear the joke, but I'd already decided how it ends. When the knock came at the door, I stood with both feet planted. The doorbell rang once, sharp, measured. I opened it slowly, already knowing what I'd see. 2 officers stood on the porch, one older one, young, both professional, both polite. I stepped aside without a word and let them in. "They're in the guest suite," I said quietly. "He has the folder." She helped him take it. The older officer nodded. "We'll speak with them." Footsteps behind me. Bryce emerged from the hallway, still wearing that easy Sunday smile. "Mom." His voice held forced casualness. "What's going on?" I didn't answer him. I looked at the officer instead. "They accessed my locked cabinet without permission. The document in his possession is my property. I believe they intended to forge my signature to claim ownership of this home. Bryce's head jerked back like I'd slapped him. What, are you serious right now? Olivia appeared behind him, her eyes going wide as she took in the uniforms. Marvel, what is this? I turned the tablet toward the officers and tapped play. The footage spoke louder than I ever could, their voices clear and unmistakable. The phrases burned in my ears even as I let the officers listen. If she signs this tonight, we'll say it's medical paperwork. She'll thank us later. The younger officer leaned in. That's more than enough to initiate formal questioning, he said, glancing at Bryce. Sir, I need you to place the folder down and step aside. Bryce looked at me like I was a stranger. Mom, you're really doing this? After everything I've done for you? You mean after everything I've done for you? I replied, my voice even. He didn't answer. He just dropped the folder onto the counter. It landed with a soft slap that felt louder than anything else in the room. They didn't resist. They didn't cry. They didn't beg. Not yet. As they followed the officers outside, I reached for my phone again, this time to call Nadine. I sat across from the detective in a quiet room at the station, a stainless steel desk between us. Nadine had arrived 10 minutes after I called, professional and calm, as always, already reviewing the state statutes on elder financial abuse before we even walked in. Do you have the recording ready? The officer asked. I tapped the tablet and angled the screen forward. Everything is time-stamped. Audio is clear. He hit play. The room went silent except for the sound of betrayal. Bryce's voice came through first, low but distinct. It's here she keeps the deed, in this folder. Then Olivia's will say it's a medical release form. She doesn't even read them anymore. Laughter. Faint. Ugly. Nadine said nothing, just watched their faces. The footage showed Bryce holding up the house deed like he'd earned it. Olivia checking page numbers, flipping papers until she found the one she wanted. Once she signs this, we call Evan. He lists it. We're out by June. The detective beside me paused the video and exhaled sharply. Clear intent. Elder fraud. Coercion. Conspiracy. He turned to another officer in the room. Flag this for priority processing. Get their phones. Check any contact with realtors. I just sat there. Not smug, not vindicated. Just tired. I'd given that boy everything, my money, my time, my belief. And yet, he'd looked me in the eye that morning and asked if I wanted toast. He knew what he'd done. I don't want revenge, I told the detective. I just want it stopped. I want it recorded. I want it to count. He nodded. You did exactly what you should have. They let me sit in the observation room during the preliminary interview. I didn't speak. I didn't have to. The footage had already done that for me. But I asked to be there to see if after everything, there was even a flicker of truth left in him. Bryce shifted in his seat, glancing toward the mirror on the wall. He couldn't see me behind it, but something in his posture changed, like he sensed he was being watched. The confidence slipped first. Then came the tension in his shoulders, the darting eyes. A moment later, the mask cracked. He started crying. Loudly. Not from guilt, no, it was something else. Desperation. Collapse. Mom, he said, between shallow breaths. You're blowing this out of proportion. I wasn't going to do anything. Olivia was just talking. We were just looking. Please, just talk to me. He wiped his face with both hands, but the tears didn't move me. I stayed behind the glass arms folded. The officer kept the questions steady. Why were you in the locked drawer? Why did you tell your wife to prepare listing documents? It was curiosity, Bryce said quickly. We were trying to help her downsize. We didn't mean to scare her. Olivia leaned forward, her voice all soft edges. This is a huge misunderstanding. We would never trick your mother. She must have... Misread something. I stepped into the room then. Nadine gave a short nod to the officer and held the door open. I looked at both of them. They looked so small now, sitting at that cold metal table like school children caught cheating. "You didn't misunderstand the location of my safe," I said. Bryce froze. Olivia blinked hard, lips parted. "You didn't accidentally unlock my cabinet. You didn't accidentally print a fake form. You didn't misread anything. You were precise. You were coordinated. You were patient. And you were caught." I turned to the officer. "We're pressing charges. I'm not going to back down," Bryce whispered. "Mom, please." But I was already walking out of the room, because the woman they had expected, soft-spoken, forgiving, blind, no longer lived in me. And I still had a house to protect. I sat on the edge of the guest bed that night, hands clasped tight in my lap, staring out the window like I was waiting for a storm that had already passed. But my thoughts weren't in the present. They were in a small kitchen 20 years ago with my husband drying dishes beside me and a worn letter from Bryce's school on the table. "He's not like you," he said softly. "Not soft-hearted. Not generous." I remember laughing. "He's just focused. You always say he's smart." "Smart, yes," he replied, drying a plate. "But he's learning to calculate people. He sees what love gets him, not what it gives." I'd dismissed it then, called it parental worry, told him all teenagers go through selfish phases. But now, with the police report printed and sealed in a folder on my nightstand, I saw what my husband had seen all those years ago. Bryce didn't make a mistake. He made a plan. He assessed my habits, how I signed things quickly, how I trusted him to handle the mail, how I let them move in after the funeral without hesitation. He knew I was grieving. He knew I was vulnerable. He just waited long enough to make his move feel casual. And Olivia, she wasn't leading him. She was echoing him, supporting the man he'd always been, not changing him. I remembered my husband's face that night, the tired look behind his eyes. He didn't fear Bryce's ambition. He feared where it would lead without a conscience. And here we were. I stood up and went to the small safe behind the bookshelf. Inside, everything was still where it belonged. The alternate property deed, the emergency fund, the second will. He hadn't found this one. Not yet. I took it out and placed it on the desk, opening the envelope with a calm I didn't expect. I had one more move to make, and this one they wouldn't see coming. I sat beside Nadine as the district attorney laid everything out. She didn't mince words, and I respected that. A woman in her 60s herself, sharp-eyed and steady-voiced. The kind of professional who had seen this play out far too many times, but still seemed to take mine personally. "Attempted fraud," she said, tapping her pen against the file. "Elder abuse, specifically financial manipulation. Unlawful access to private property. And intent to commit real estate theft based on the documents in their possession and the video footage." She looked over at Nadine. "Your client was meticulous, smart enough to install the system, save the files, and report immediately. That makes this not just defensible, it makes it clean." Nadine nodded. "With the footage and timestamps, we have them cold." I didn't feel triumphant. Just level. Like the ground beneath me had finally stopped shifting. For weeks, I'd been feeling like a guest in my own life, walking through a home where smiles masked strategy, listening to laughter that now sounded like mockery in hindsight. But here, sitting in that office under that sterile light, hearing those words spoken by people who believed me, trusted me, it felt like something had snapped back into place. "Will they see jail time?" I asked quietly. The DA hesitated. "Likely not for a first offense. But restitution, mandatory financial counseling, a criminal record, yes. And if your no-contact order is approved, you'll never have to deal with them again." Nadine reached into her folder and slid over the paperwork. "We're filing it today." And we'll begin the transfer of the house into the irrevocable trust we discussed. I signed my name with a steady hand. They wanted a signature. Now they had one, but it wasn't the one they planned for. And it didn't give them a house. It gave them consequences. The courthouse was quiet that morning. Just the sound of paper shuffling, printers clicking, voices low and professional. I stood at the window, filing the no-contact order with a clerk who didn't blink when I checked the box labeled family. It wasn't the first one they'd processed today. Probably wouldn't be the last. When she handed me the stamped copy, I folded it once, placed it in my purse, and moved to the next window. Nadine was already waiting. Trust is finalized. The house is no longer in your name, it's now in the name of the trust we set up. You're still the beneficiary, but no one can touch it. Not without going through fire. I nodded. Good. Then came the bank. 3 accounts frozen, 2 closed, and a third secured with dual authentication and biometric lock. Every shared access point Bryce ever had, even casually, was now revoked. The joint credit card we once used when he was in college canceled. It felt strange, not painful, not freeing either, just necessary. I raised him with kindness, I told Nadine in the car later. But I won't keep paying the price for it. She didn't respond right away. Just looked at me, not with pity, but with something more grounded respect maybe. Or relief. Kindness doesn't mean silence, she finally said. I looked out the window as we passed the neighborhood park. Bryce used to play there when he was 8. He once fell off the swing and broke his arm, and I held him all night while he cried into my sweater. That boy was gone, and whatever man replaced him had seen my love as currency. Something to be traded in for property lines and signatures. Not anymore. I turned my phone off that evening. No more calls. No more explanations. The doorbell rang once around 7, but I didn't move. I didn't even look through the peephole. I sat in my reading chair, opened the second envelope Nadine had given me, and turned the page. The courtroom smelled like polished wood and stale air. Everything moved slowly, paperwork, footsteps, glances, but the weight of it all settled fast. I sat 2 rows behind the prosecution table, Nadine beside me, hands clasped in her lap. Bryce didn't look at me once. He kept his eyes low, fixed on the table, shoulders tight, like he could disappear if he stayed still enough. Olivia sat straighter still, wearing that polished expression, like this was some inconvenient meeting and not a criminal hearing. When the judge asked if the defendants had anything to say, Olivia stood and tried to spin it. We never intended harm, she said. There was miscommunication. We were just trying to help Marvel transition out of the burden of the property. We love her. We were concerned. Concerned. I stared at her as if hearing a stranger invent a version of me I didn't recognize, frail, confused, burdensome. Then the judge asked if I had anything to say. I stood. No notes? No rehearsed lines? Just truth. They didn't just try to steal a house, I said, clearly voice carrying through the silence. They tried to steal my mind, my name, my worth. They counted on me being too old, too trusting, too slow to notice. I looked directly at Bryce. He flinched. I noticed. The judge nodded, her face unreadable. Statement is on record. The sentencing wasn't dramatic. Fines, restitution, community service. The criminal record would follow them longer than any jail time could. The no-contact order was granted in full. As they were dismissed, Bryce hesitated by the door. Still, he didn't speak. Still no apology. I didn't need one. I walked past him without stopping, my heels steady against the courtroom floor. Every step forward made the past feel smaller. Outside, the air was bright. Clean. I didn't look back. The gate is locked now. Always. Not out of fear, just finality. It's been 4 months since the court date. 4 months since I watched them walk out. No apology, no remorse. I haven't heard a word since, and I don't expect to. Silence has its own weight, but it also has edges. It draws lines. You don't have to explain twice. This morning, like most mornings now, I sit by the window with my coffee. The same kitchen, the same table. But nothing feels the same. Not the air, not the stillness. Because this stillness is mine. I thought it would ache being alone in this house again. But it doesn't. It breathes better now. I've filled it with my music, my books, my own quiet thoughts. No watching my back. No pretending I didn't hear whispers in the hall. No second guessing my own memory. The house isn't a battlefield anymore. It's a place again. I signed a set of papers last week with Nadine. The trust is permanent, untouchable. And a portion of the estate now goes to a legal aid fund for elder fraud cases, women like me who waited too long to speak or didn't have proof when they needed it. Women who gave and gave until someone came to take the rest. I don't attend their meetings, but I read their letters. One woman wrote, "I didn't know what to say when it was my own daughter. Your case helped me find the words." I keep that one folded in my wallet. Sometimes the memory creeps back, Bryce, holding that folder, Olivia calling my name with syrup in her voice, but it fades quicker now. They don't live here anymore. Not in my space. Not in my mind. I planted a new lock on the front gate. I replaced the one they used to open. And this morning, for the first time in years, I left the back door open just to feel the breeze.